If you haven't used Illustrator before and this is your very first time seeing the interface, then you have been missing out. You can use Illustrator to create so many designs. If you're a fashion designer, you could come up with designs for clothes. If you're a graphic designer, which is our main purpose, you can come up with logo designs, flyers, brochures, roll-ups, and so many other designs. Whatever it is your mind can come up with, you can use Illustrator to create those designs. So we're going to be introducing you to Illustrator, and I'm going to be using a flyer as an example. We want to go through the conventional stage of talking about how to open Illustrator, how to close Illustrator, but I'm going to be designing a flyer, just the process. Generally, as a graphic designer, what it takes for you to come up with a flyer, at least this is going to be my style. It may not be the same for all other designers, but this is my style, and I'm going to use this as an opportunity to show you or demonstrate how you could use Illustrator. So this is definitely beginner friendly. Now let's get straight into what we're supposed to do. So first, you will need to create a new file. And how do we do this? You need to come to the new file button and click on it once. So when you click on it once, it opens this window and you can see it has different templates or different presets or settings. So if you had saved a particular setting before, it's going to appear here. If you want to design for mobile, you just need to come here. It has different presets. You just need to select the screen. For web, it has different presets. For print, for film, for illustrations, we have different presets. And what you notice is the measurements of the dimensions change. So for art and illustrations, you see that we have millimeters. For film and video, we have pixels. For print, we have millimeters, and for web, we have pixels. So I think for mobile, it's going to be pixels. So you just need to make use, especially if you don't have an idea and you're new to this and you don't have an idea of the measurements you're supposed to be using. The presets makes it easy for you to create or start up using the software. So in this case, we're going to be designing a flyer for CIMFEST 2023. So CIMFEST in Cameroon is the Cameroon International Music Festival, and it took place in November. I just want to use this as a teaching moment to tell you or show you how to create a flyer for an event. It could be a wedding, it could be a corporate event, it could be a party. You could make use of Illustrator to create those flyers. So Illustrator is not the only option. You can use Photoshop, but we are going to be using this as an example. So I already have an idea of the dimension I want it to be. It's going to be for social media. And if it's for social media, we are going to be selecting web. And you look at the preset settings, they are already selected, but I don't want to use this dimension. I want mine to be portrait, so I'm going to enter 1080 by 920. So with 1080 by 920, we're going to see we're designing this for Facebook and to be suitable to be used on your WhatsApp status. So you see pixel is already selected. There's no need to select any of this. Pixel is perfect for the web, perfect for screen. The orientation is automatically selected. So if I want to change the orientation from portrait, because we have the width and the height is higher. If you want to change it now to the landscape, you just need to select landscape and it's automatically going to switch the figures for you. So in this case, I want it to be portrait and I'm going to stick to portrait. I switched it back. So the next thing, artboards. How many artboards am I going to be using? In this case, I want to work on one artboard. I want to work with one artboard. If you want to create, let me say, a magazine or design for something with multiple pages, you could create multiple artboards. You could increase it to 5, you increase it to 6. Usually you would do that using InDesign, but if you don't have access to InDesign, you can still use it. You can still use Illustrator to create those multiple pages. Let's say for magazines, for a multiple page brochure, and so on and so forth. Now the next is the bleed. Bleed is very important when you are creating designs for print. In this case, I'm not creating design for print, so I'm not going to touch anything with the bleed. For the color mode, we have two main options. We have RGB and we have CMYK. Simple. RGB is best for screens. It stands for red, green, and blue. And we have CMYK. CMYK is best for print. So RGB for screen, CMYK for print. In this case, we are designing for screen. Remember, we're designing a flyer for social media, and it's going to be viewed mainly via screens. So RGB is perfect. Raster effect for the resolution, I'm going to stick to 72 ppi. If you're working on a design for print, you could select 150 or 300, but for now we are going to stick to 72 ppi. So I think we're set to go. And if I wanted to save this preset for later, I would change it here, but for now we're focusing on working on a flyer. So when you're done with your settings, you need to make sure that your settings are okay. Then when you're done, you click on create. So welcome to your artboard. So this is what the Illustrator artboard looks like. And the first thing you will notice is the menu bar. It just has different menus with several options, expandable options. So if you've created an object and you want to manipulate certain things with that object, you can go to the object menu and you could see different options that we cannot touch all of this. When you visit Illustrator for the first time, I remember visiting Illustrator for the first time. It was scary. The interface looked so confusing. And the funniest thing is I had a background with Photoshop. I expected that it was going to be easy for me, but it wasn't. Actually, it wasn't easy. But I think at the back of my mind, I was really scared of using the application. That's why I thought it was difficult, but it really wasn't. I've gotten used to it now, and I'm telling you that it just looks scary. You don't need to master everything on the artboard. You don't need to master every tool. With time, you'll get used to the tools. For now, if you have a design, you just need to keep it simple, and little by little, with a lot more practice, you'll get used to using the tools, and it's going to be quite seamless for you. So we're talking about the menu bar. The next thing is going to be the control panel. The control panel just allows you to modify selected objects. On the left, we have the toolbox. The toolbox just has different tools. I'm just going to hover over the tools so you see what the tools look like. So we have the selection tool. You can use to select an object and move it around in your artboard. You have the direct selection tool. You can manipulate points on your objects. We have the magic wand, and you notice that there are some alphabets, or there's like an alphabet in brackets. So if you look at selection tool, we have a V in brackets. That's just a shortcut. So if you don't want to come and select this, you just need to click on V on your keyboard and it's going to automatically select that tool. So right now I'm going to click on V and you see it has already automatically selected the selection tool. So we have the rectangle. If you want to draw a rectangle, and if even have a little arrow just on the bottom right, and it just shows that this is just one tool, but beneath or inside this particular tool, there are other tools that can be open. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click. And when I right click, you see it shows me the different options. So I can draw a rectangle tool, I can draw a rounded rectangle, ellipse tool. For now, let me just select rounded rectangle and I'm going to draw on my artboard. Yeah, so that's it. So what I did is I just created a rounded rectangle and I'm using the selection tool to move this around. This is direct selection tool. I told you that you can manipulate points. So these are actually points. These are points and Illustrator, so you can manipulate any object with the points as long as you use a direct selection tool. So it allows you to directly select points so you can easily manipulate them. So that is just an aside. We have the text tool or the type tool where you can use to enter texts. So what I did is I created a text box. I clicked, did not release the left mouse button, and I dragged. So it created a text box. But if I just want to create a simple type, I just need to click once and it's going to allow me to enter text on a straight line, not like in the form of a paragraph, just a straight line. So this, if you have a text that you just want to enter on a straight line, you just need to click once and you're good. If you want to create like a paragraph, then it will be better for you to create a text box. So to create a text box, like I mentioned, you need to click the left mouse button, you click, don't release, and you drag. When you're done and you're comfortable with the heights and the width, you release. So what Illustrator does is they allow you, or it automatically fills lorem ipsum. Lorem ipsum is just dummy text that you can use to serve as a placeholder before you bring in the real text to replace in your design. So if this is okay, what you can do is you can increase the font size. You can increase the font size. You can change the font type to any font you want. You can change the font style to light, regular, and so on. So that is just what the type tool allows you to do. So you see our control panel or control bar, it modifies depending on the kind of object that is on the board. So if you have a rectangle or a rounded rectangle and it's selected, you see it brings up different menu options. So you can align it to the center, you can align it to the vertical center or the horizontal center, align it to the left, or rather to the right or to the left. You can change the height, you can change the width, and so on. So remember, we are not going to go so deep into actually using this. I really want us to get through to this so we can start designing our flyer. Then next we have the rotation tool or the rotate tool. We have the scale tool. Like the name says, it allows you to scale objects. Like the name says, it allows you to scale objects. We have the width tool, the free transform tool. You'll get used to all of these tools. There are so many. It's just beautiful because it really allows you to manipulate objects. You see people coming up with exceptional logo designs or simple logo designs or crazy flyer designs, and you wonder how they came up with certain patterns, how they came up with certain objects in the design. Is because they made good use, they understood how to use Illustrator and how to manipulate objects with Illustrator. So we have the eyedropper tool we can use to pick a color, and we have the artboard tool. This is our artboard, this is our artboard, and this whole area is our canvas. So you can add more artboards. If you want to add a new artboard, you can click on new artboard and it automatically adds the artboard to the right. But we're not going to do that. That was just an aside again. And the next is the fill tool. So if you create an object and you want to change the fill color, you just need to click on this. So we're going to create a simple rectangle tool and we want to change the fill to, let's say, red. What I did is I double clicked. Sorry, I did not mention that I double clicked on that fill box and I'm selecting a different color. When I'm done and I'm okay with the colors, then I'm going to click on OK. Now, if you want to be very strict and you're designing, let's say, some designs for a website and they want you to use only web colors, you just need to click on only web colors and it's going to give you a different option. So this is very strict. It's going to come up with colors that are acceptable for web standards. We'll not get much into that. So in this case, I don't think that I want to focus a lot on web colors. I just want to select a color and I want this, and this is fine. And you see it changed the color to red. Now if I add a stroke, what you notice is the stroke fill changed. So I want to change the stroke fill to blue. Remember, we're not doing color psychology, I'm just demonstrating. So I've changed the stroke fill to 2. I want to increase my stroke width to 45. So let's imagine a scenario. Let's say that for some reason you don't want the stroke fill to be blue, but you want the actual rectangle fill to be blue and the stroke to be red. The easy way to change this is going to be to click on the swap fill and stroke. And what it does is it's going to swap the colors. So you see, it swapped the colors. So that is an easy way for you to swap colors. So there are other tools like I mentioned, the draw normal, draw behind. So let's say I want to draw a circle or an ellipse behind the square. I just need to click on draw behind and it's going to, you see what it does? It's actually drawing behind. So let me change the color so that it will not be too confusing. I'm going to take out the stroke and I'm going to change it to green. So what he has done is he has created a circle directly behind the rectangle. And this is where we talk about layers. So you can place objects on top of each other, or you can stack objects on top of each other. In this case, the rectangle is stacked on top of the circle. So I can take this rectangle behind the circle. So what I need to do is I'm using my keyboard shortcut right now. I'm clicking on Control and the square brackets, the left square bracket, to take it behind. If I want to bring this rectangle back in front of the circle, and we'll have several objects in front, if I just want to take them in front, what I can do is click on the Control on my keyboard, and the right square brackets is going to take it back to the forefront. You can just keep on clicking to when you're comfortable with where it's placed, and then you release your Control and square brackets. So that is still another eyesight as to how you can use the different tools on Illustrator. On the right, you're going to find the palettes, or some people will say panels, and it just allows you to keep information. While you're working, you keep information, you keep your tools and different options visible as you work. What you can do is you can dock and undock a palette. So if I'm not comfortable with where this color is, or this color tool or color palettes are located, I can drag this out and place it below here. So what I did is I dragged it out, and in order for me to place it just below here, I need to make sure that the color changes to blue. Wherever it is I'm comfortable, I place is going to just be placed directly below it or above it, depending on where I choose. So in this case, I want it to be below, and I'm comfortable with this. As long as it's blue and I've not released, it means that my option is still open for me to move it. So in this case, I'm okay with this location, and I'm going to leave it here. And that's how you change different or move around with different panels or palettes in Illustrator. So you can collapse or you can expand. So when you expand, all the panels or palettes are open and you can see the different options there. If it's filling a lot, most of the times it fills a lot of the canvas, so you just want to keep it collapsed, and that's the way you collapse. You click on the double arrow button to expand, or you can click on the double arrow button to close it. So let's say we have moved a lot of these items around, and for some reason you want to change it back to the original state. You need to go now to Windows, Workspace, and you click on Reset Essential Classic. So the default workspace, this is our workspace. This whole environment in which you're working, or window in which you're working, is your workspace. The default workspace is Essentials Classic. And if you want to, for some reason, change the layout to something different, if you're working on a layout design like a magazine, a newsletter, you might want to change it to layout. If you're working on a painting or an illustration, you might need to select the painting, and it's going to change the workspace. For now, let's select painting and see what it does. So you see it's selected or brought out the different palettes that are going to be suitable for anybody who's going to be working on a painting. In this case, I just want to go back to the original, which is the Essentials Classic. I like the way it is, and you see my palettes are still undocked, and I want to put it back in the original state. We'll go to Window, Workspace, and we select Reset Essentials Classic, and it has resetted everything back to the original state. Now let's dive into designing our flyer. So before you want to create or work on any flyer, the first thing you need to do is to have a sketch. You need to have a sketch before, not just for flyers. If you're working on a roll-up, if you're working on a logo, there is a design process, and I believe that we all have design processes. This is my own design process. I always prefer to have a sketch. It makes it easy for me to place items on my artboard or on my canvas. So I always advise even people who are beginning, always have a sketch. No matter what you're working on, even if it's a logo, have a sketch. The worst thing you can do is to come on your software and trying to put things together. Yes, you're creative, but The sketch just gives you an idea. It helps you to take whatever it is in your mind and place it on paper. So by the time you start actually designing, you'll know exactly where to put items. And if you're not comfortable with the way items are placed, you play around with the items. That's why we are creatives. You have the creative freedom to play around with things until when you're satisfied with the look and feel of your design. So in this case, I worked on a sketch, and I said the sketch doesn't have to be perfect. The sketch actually is not perfect. So we're going to place the sketch on our artboard or on a canvas. And how do we do that? You click on File, you go to Place, and we have two options. You can link or you can embed an object. So if you want to link or embed an object, you just need to come. After clicking on Place, you select, in this case, I want to place my sketch, and I've selected the sketch. Now, what's the difference between linking and embedding? With linking, we're going to use an example. We're going to use a scenario. You're working on this flyer design, and it's not just you that is going to use the flyer. You need to send it to another designer who may need to cross-check or maybe touch something up on the flyer. The client requires that you should give them the original file. The client wants the file, and what you need to do is you need to send that file to that client. What happens if you link an image? If you link an image, the file is going to be missing. The file is going to be, it might be there, but it's going to be missing. So when they open this file, for example, on their own computer, and they want to maybe edit stuff, it will show them an error that the file is missing. But when you embed and you want to send to a client or you want to send to another designer, it makes sure that the file is going to be always present. It's not going to be missing, or you wouldn't have any issues with missing files or missing links. So we're going to place our sketch. I've selected the sketch, click on Place, and what you can do is you can just click once, it just drops the file. Even if the file is as large as whatever, it's going to just drop it as it is. But in this case, I want to have control on the size, so I'm going to click left mouse and drag. If I'm comfortable with the size, then I'm going to release. So I just released, and you look at what the sketch is. The sketch is not the best, but like I said, it gives me an idea of what I want to do, of how I'm going to place my items. So now in this case, if you want to work on a flyer, you definitely have to have an idea of the typography or the font you're going to be using, of the color palette. Now, how do you figure out the color palette you're going to be using for a design? The first thing you need to do is to ask your clients, do you have a logo? Do you have a style guide? Most of the times it may have a logo, but they don't have a style guide. So if they have a logo, you can use that as a good example. You can sample the colors from their logo. If they have a style guide, even better, or a brand guide, even better, which means that they've already defined their color codes. You will not need to crack your brain or work your brain trying to figure out what colors to use or what colors not to use. Now, imagine another scenario that is just a friend who wants you to work on a party flyer for them. How exactly are you going to figure out the colors you're going to use? What you're going to do is, first of all, understand what the project is all about. You need to understand color psychology. What colors are going to be suitable for that particular project or not? Then if you have your primary color, if you're selecting your primary color, you just need to find the accent color that is going to be suitable. So what I always try as much as possible to do is to limit my color choices. 2, 3 max. If I want to go crazy, maybe 4, then it means that you need to know how to manipulate those colors. So most of the times I always try to limit my colors or my color choices, and I try to also limit my fonts. So in this case, we're going to import the logo because the CIMFEST, like I earlier mentioned, is a Cameroon International Music Festival, and it took place in this November 2023. And they had different artists from all over Cameroon coming to perform. So what we are going to be working on is a flyer for a single performing artist. So it's going to serve like a template for marketing other artists are going to be performing during the CIMFEST. So now we are using this as an example. We're not saying that this is the original flyer design. What we are doing is we are using the CIMFEST as an example of an event that you could be asked to create a flyer for. So in this case, we're going to be working on a specific artist, and his name is Bitty, and he is very famous for Be Proud. We all, if you're a Cameroonian, you are very familiar with Be Proud. We're going to be using him as our example of an artist who is supposed to be performing during the CIMFEST 2023. So we're going to select our colors. We're going to first of all import the logo, which is, we're going to keep this flyer very simple. We're not going to go all crazy with it. The goal is just to show you how to use the tool to come up with designs. And I'm hoping that by the time you learn this, you will know exactly what you can do, especially when you how to handle a project from the beginning to the end. Be it a brochure, a flyer, a roll-up, a banner, whatever it is you want to work on. So we're going to import the logo. We're going to use the CIMFEST logo. I'll just drop it and I will embed it. So remember I mentioned linking and embedding, but I want to embed this, so I've embedded it. And we have this color. So generally I did a little bit of research and I realized that the two primary colors for CIMFEST were black and this I don't know if this is lemon green. So we're going to use this as the primary color, and definitely black is going to be used, so I will just keep that aside. I'm going to use black. I'll just use that color for black. Then I want to find something like an accent color, if in case for some reason, because I'm not entirely sure, remember this is just a sketch, I'm not still entirely sure I'm going to be using more than 2 colors. So if in case for some reason I might end up using another color, then I want to find an accent color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to visit my palette tool. So when you visit the palette tool, we'll have a color guide on the right. So I usually use this to come up with my color palettes or my color schemes. In this case, I just need a second color, and right now we're selected, or it's selected, muted and vivid. I was working on a project and I had to use a muted version of the color of the main color, so I changed that. So if I want to use but a tinted or a shade, I need to go back to show tints and shade, and we have different options here. We have monochromatic, we have complementary, sleek complementary. In this case, let's see what I'm going to use. I could use complementary. Complementary just makes it easier, but in this case I'm going to find something else. I just want something a little bit let's use complementary too. I'm going to select, let's see, sorry, let's see this shade. Remember, we might not actually end up using this color, so that shade, I don't know if it really makes a lot of sense. Let's select, no, I don't want a yellow, with the 2 colors are just too bright. I want something a little bit contrasting. So this is what I usually do. I've selected this, I don't know if this is violet, but a darker shade of violet, and I'm not really sure if I want to use this other color. So most of the times, if I don't want to really go overboard, I might just select a darker shade or a lighter shade of the main or the primary color. So I will just to be comfortable right now, I'm going to select the darker shade and leave it at that. We might change it later on, I'm not yet sure, but we might change later on. They already have 2 powerful primary colors, so I don't want to go overboard with this. So we've selected the colors, and what I like to do is, so I like to create a color group out of it. Color group, I'll just put this CIMFEST, and I want to make sure that selected artwork and convert process to global, and just make sure it's selected like this. So if in case you imagine if I've worked on this flyer and I have to work on like 4 other versions where I need to change up the colors to give to the clients, having this color group is going to make it very easy for me to manipulate the colors. That's just what I'll say for this. And I've selected the colors. I might end up not talking throughout. You'll just be seeing me working, but I just want to make sure we go through the initial stages. So now let's select the fonts. We see that CIMFEST has fun, futuristic kind of fonts, and for now that's the logo. I don't have access to the actual font that was used to design the logo, so we're going to find something We're going to find two fonts. Like I said, I like to limit my font choices to two. You can go to 3 or 4, depending on how experienced you are. You can manipulate fonts, but when you're beginning, remember this is something like a beginner's tutorial. So when you're beginning, I will recommend that you limit your font choices to 2. Your color choices, limit them to 2, and you can play around with the primary and the accent colors. You don't need to choose the different shades here. I choose a primary shade and a darker shade, but you don't have to do this. You can find another font color to use depending on what you're working on and depending on your eyes too. So like I said, we want to choose the fonts. I want to look for something futuristic. This is just an example. It's not supposed to be perfect. I have so many fonts here, and sometimes it can be a little bit confusing. I want to look for something fun. Okay, so we're going to stick to this, which select the bold irregular, and we're going to select a secondary font. So we're going to use this secondary font maybe for body copy and just important information that needs to be 100% legible, irrespective of whatever the information you're supposed to pass. I like to choose sans serif fonts. Sans serif fonts are quite simple and easy to read, and I like clear fonts. So let's go with this popular font, Poppins. Let's use Poppins. I wanted a rounded font, but I think this will do for now. So these are my two fonts. I'm good with these. Let's not forget our sketch here. So we have the logo. So this is where the logo is supposed to be, but when you start designing, you realize that you might have to play around with things. So we have CIMFEST. Okay, let's study our sketch. We have CIMFEST that has been tilted. We have the image. So this is supposed to be the picture of the artist. We have simple information, which is the location. We have the date that the event is supposed to be taking place, which is between the 15th to the 18th of 2023 of November 2023. And we have performing live. Then we'll have the name of the artist here. Then we'll have the link to the various social handles of the CIMFEST. So if in case somebody needs some extra information or just wants to follow up with what is going to be taking, or the different activities that are going to be taking place, they can visit any of these pages. And so we're going to create this first. So we're going to create CIMFEST. So I'm deliberately going to leave this because we are still going to be learning more. So I've created this in lowercase. I want to make all of this uppercase. We have CIMFEST 23. I want to make this uppercase. So how do I find this? Normally, I'm supposed to find this here, which is under the type tool, but here is properties. We could easily change this here, but I want to show you another way that you can actually manipulate your type on your canvas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to Windows, and I'm going to look for the type, which is type. This is type here, and I'm going to choose character. So you see it's undocked. If I'm not comfortable with it hanging just around or floating around my canvas, I'm going to dock it or stick it to the palette here. So I've done that, and I'm going to click on this, and I want this to be all caps. I've changed it. So remember that we want to use these fonts. The easiest way, if you've already created your typography, let's say your typography skill or a guide for your typography or fonts you're going to be using, I can just simply select my eyedropper tool, then I click on it, whatever it is, whatever objects I want to copy the properties. If I want to copy the color, if I want to copy the font, I just need to click on this and it changes it to that. So you see, it automatically changed it. And I'm okay with this. Remember, we want this to be all in caps, and we have all caps. We're going to rotate this. So I want this to rotate easily. What I'm going to do is to click on Shift. Make sure that I come to the edge of the text box, and I click on Shift and I just rotate. So you see it rotates 45 degrees, 90 degrees. It just makes it easy. What happens if I don't actually click on shift, this is what happens. It has no control, so it's more like a free form rotation. But if I click on shift, it rotates like calculating 45 degrees, so 45 and 90. So I'm okay with this, I'm fine with this. And we have the CIMFEST title there. I want to place this in a rectangle, so I've selected a rectangle tool and I'm going to do just this. Drag it when I'm comfortable with the height and the width, and I want to sample the colors. I want this rectangle to be green. And do you know what happened? I actually forgot to change this from draw behind. I needed to go back to draw normal, so I'm going to undo this so you see what happens if I draw normally. So let's select this draw normally or draw normal, then I click on my rectangle tool and draw. If I'm comfortable with this, then I'm going to change the color. So you see it's on top the text, and I want to send this behind. Remember, we need to click on Control and the left square bracket, and I'm okay with that. So another thing I did not mention is usually when working on something like this, I always play around with my items, but I need to make sure that my ruler is selected. So I like to design with guides. So in order to make sure that your ruler is visible, you click on Ctrl R. That's the ruler tool. And I like to draw guides. So in this case, we're not going to have a specific guide. I'm just going to put some guides to make sure that my text is well placed and my text or my objects don't exceed a certain margin on the canvas or on the artboard. So this is just random. If you have an exact measurement of how you want your guides to be placed, then make sure that you measure it, because you can see it from the guides, you can see it from the ruler panel. So for now, I'm going to use this the way it is. So we have the CIMFEST logo, and we have Cameroon International Music Festival. Cameroon. Okay, so what it has done is it has taken the previous fonts. I want to reduce the font size to this. So you notice that this is actually supposed to be placed to the right. I'm going to try to place it there and see if it works. If it doesn't work, then I might leave it just below this. What I think I'm going to do is to reduce the rectangle. I don't want to exceed this guide, so I'm going to reduce the rectangle. Yes, so I'm going to bring this and make sure there's some spacing here. Usually I tend to measure my spacing to make sure that it always fits right. Let's reduce the font. This is too large. Let me just increase the guide. The guide is just too. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it like this. Oh, I don't like the fact that it's hyphenated. So if I want to take out this hyphenation, I need to make sure I select the text. I come to the paragraph panel, then I make sure I uncheck hyphenate. And now I hyphenate, remove the hyphenation from it. So for now, let's just leave it the way it looks like this. What I'm going to do now is I'm contemplating if I should bring in the image first or if I should just add this, but I'm going to bring in the image first. So to bring in the image, I just need to click on place. So the image, this is witty, is witty. So the image has already been edited in Photoshop. I already took out the background. So I will just bring this in. So remember I said you can drop, just click once, or you can drag and drop. So now I'll just drop. I'll drop, then I'm going to resize this. Yes, so that is witty. that is witty, and I like how it looks. I'm just going to be winging this a little bit. I'm going to be winging this a little bit, and I like how it looks. But there's something I want to do. We're going to change something here. We're going to make sure that this 23 stays behind, but we are going to bring the CIMFEST on top of witty. So this is 23. I want the CIMFEST to be on top, to be placed on top. We're going to look for a way to place that or play with that, but for now, let's just leave it at that. We're going to leave it at that for now. So this is witty's picture. Remember that we're supposed to have a black background. So I'm trying to see if I'll just place this in the background. Does this make sense? Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. So we're going to bring this other rectangle that I just took out. We're going to change this to another color, which is this green. This green doesn't make sense. This green doesn't make sense. So I want to put performing live. Remember, we're not creating an exceptional flyer. This is just for learning purposes. And we need to change the color to white. I like to make sure that my white is visible. So I'll just keep white visible. So that's his name, and I want you to take this font actually. I want you to take that font, and I want it to be sorry, I mistakenly clicked on that. I want it to be all caps. So as I'm designing, I'm actually having different ideas right now. Like the way I'm picturing things is changing a little bit in my head. But let's see how it's going to go. It's changing up, like in my head it's changing. I might not stick to the original design. I actually like the way it looks. I like the fact that it's kind of stepping out of the box. I'm going to reduce this a little bit and take it up. Then I'm going to increase his name. We're going to play around with that later on, but for now I like that it's stepping out. It gives it a certain vibe. If you look at the CIMFEST logo, it has a certain vibe. So I want that same vibe to be translated here. So we're going to leave it like this for now. I want us to enter the location. The location, I want this to be a paragraph. So we're keeping this very simple, but I want it to be poppins. Reduce the font to like 40. Then we need to make sure the color is white. I'm feeling like we might end up tilting him a little bit. Yeah, I like this. For now, let's just leave it like that. And I like to make sure that things like this are properly aligned. And we have a line under here. We have a line. I originally drew the line to just end here, but I don't think I'm going to leave it to end there. I'm going to increase it. Just going to switch it. I'm going to move it down. and we want width to be on top, and we want the CIMFEST to be on top. Okay, where is Cameroon? I need to make sure that we change this to white. So there's something that I want to do right now. I like, from the logo, right, I like this shape. I like this shape. I like this shape, so I want to replicate this. And what I'm going to do is, there are two things I can do. I can trace this, and it did not really trace. If I want to select image trace, this is actually a longer way. Usually if this shape is simple and something that you can create using a pencil, this is actually a longer way for you to do it. So I'm going to make sure I select the preview. I'm going to make sure that I click on ignore white. Then I want to change it to color and see if it's going to change anything. Yeah, so it changed it. And if I'm comfortable with this, I can just expand and isolate. So when I isolate, I can delete this because I'm interested just in this shape. I can delete this one and delete this and delete this, and I make use of this shape. Now the other way is I could have used the pen tool, which I'll just do very fast. I could select the pen tool, which is the pen. This is the pen tool. The pen tool allows you to create, no matter the objects you have in mind, you can use a pen tool to create. And you can use it to create flowers, you can create an object, you can create a person, depending on how comfortable you are with the tool. The pen tool gives you so much room and so much freedom to be creative with your designs. So if I want to recreate this, I can just follow this. I'm going to click on points, create points, and when I'm comfortable with the points, then I'm going to let it be. So you see how long it took for me to create this? It's not the same, but it's fast and it's still the same effect. So we're going to delete what we traced. I'm just going to use this. I'm going to manipulate it a little bit with the direct selection tool so it has a different flair. Just change it a little bit, just a little bit. Yep, I think I'm okay with this now. So I just want to use this in the background, or maybe place it somewhere just to give it a different, I don't know, a different feeling. And see, I just sent that there. Yeah, this works. I like it. I like it. So this is it. I think if I do this, I will have to change the colors to black. Then I think I'll change the stroke to black also. Let's just leave it at that. Now width is on top and we have this shape. I want to bring this shape in front. I want this shape to come above. So I don't think I mentioned the layers panel. The layers panel allows you to see where different items are placed on your artboard, so you can either manipulate, just like I'm using shortcut to move items in front and behind different stacks. I can use the layers to manipulate this. So this is actually what the layers panel looks like. Let me close this. This is a layers panel here. So if I want to see what is on this particular artboard, this is it. This is what is selected here. It shows me that this image is selected. It shows me that this text is selected, and this is a text. It shows me that this rectangle is selected, and the rectangle is behind the image, and I want to move it on top. So that is it. I've brought it on top. I think performing, so I need to move performing. I'm going to move it on top. So I like how that is placed right now, and I want to manipulate this box. I just don't want it to be I don't want it to be straight, so I'm going to use the pen tool to play around with it. I'm going to add some points. What I'm doing is adding some points to, when I hover over this line, you see that the icon on the bottom of the pen tool changes to a plus. It shows me that I want to add an anchor point. If I want to subtract an icon point, it's going to remove an icon point. I'm going to hover over this and it shows me minus. But I want to add, so for some reason it's not showing me the anchor point here. I think it's because this text is above the rectangle. It's layered above the rectangle. So for now, I'll just leave it here like that. I'll use what I can use for now. Or let me move this aside. Move this aside, then add my points. So I've added a point. I just want it to have a jagged, what should I say, a jagged look. I'm still not 100% comfortable with this shape, but we're going to leave this for now. I'm zooming in because I want to see what I'm doing really closely. It's a minstrel. I first placed it to the left, but it just did not seem right, so I just don't want it to be there anymore. I think I like this. For the font, I don't think I'm still 100% comfortable with the font, but we're going to leave it at that. So CIMFEST. So now looking at the contrast between the background and Witty, I don't like the contrast. The CIMFEST is kind of hidden. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add like a stroke. I may add a white stroke, or I may add this lemon green stroke just to make it to blend with the background. So there are two things I can do. I can either add a stroke, or I'm going to duplicate this layer, which is a CIMFEST layer, and play around with the background. So I'm going to just copy. What I've done is I've clicked on Control Copy, or Control C rather. Then I'm going to expand this. So if I expand this, no, right now we can still edit this text. You can change it to something else. But if I expand this, I will no longer be able to edit this. It's kind of going to flatten it. It's still going to be a vector object that I can manipulate, but I'll not be able to edit it. I'll not be able to add any text again to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand. So you can either create outlines or expand. So if you want to create an outline, you select the text, you click on you right click, and you click on create outlines. You see what it did? It changed it. So now we all have points here, points that you can use to manipulate. You can manipulate this however you want. Yeah. So that is for create outlines. If you want to expand, you can select the object. Make sure that the object is selected. Then you click on object. Then you click on expand appearance. If it doesn't expand appearance, you need to come back again to object and you click on expand. Make sure you expand object and fill, and that is it. So I've done that. I'm going to now copy this. I mentioned I copied it before. I don't think it's necessary, but I'm going to copy this because I don't think I'm going to ever edit this again. One thing I noticed is that I'm going to move this on top here. Yes, that is it. So I'm going to copy this, Control C, and I'm going to play around with this. So this one that I've copied is going to serve as the background. Then the one that is hanging somewhere, that is right now is in a clipboard that I'm going to paste, I'm going to just add it later on after I've manipulated with this particular one. What I want to do is, wait, I need to change this again. I want to play around with the text a little bit. I just don't want it to look plain. I want it to have a different feel, like an artistic feel. So I'm just selecting the points and changing things up. I'm not doing anything spectacular. I'm just playing around with things. I think I'm going to leave it like this. Let me bring this eye down. It doesn't have to be like this. I'm just showing you how to manipulate objects. So now I'm comfortable with this. And now, yeah. So I'm comfortable with this now. So I'm going to now copy this. Control C and click on effects, and I'm going to do what we call offset path. So when I click on offset path, yes, offsetted the path. Yes, added something like a stroke, which is visible, but it's not really a stroke per se. So I'm going to offset it by, let's see, 14 pixels. Let's just leave it at that. We're just trying to learn how to use the tool. I want it to be rounded. Let's see what bevel looks like. You see what it does is it's changing the edges. So when I selected rounded, it changed the edges to round. When I selected bevel, it changed the edges to something kind of sharp, kind of geometric. So I think I like this. Actually, I like this look, so I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to select this color. Yes, I've selected a color. Then if I'm okay with this, I'm going to now expand. So what I'm going to do is object, expand appearance. You see what it did? I've expanded the appearance. Now you see it has some sort of, the points are kind of intersected, but not really intersected. But what I want to do is I want to combine it. I want it to become a unique shape, or one shape. It's going to be like a union. Right now these are still single objects that can be moved around if you want to play around with them, but I want this to be one object. So what I'm going to do is make sure that I select this. Then I need to select the Pathfinder tool, and a Pathfinder tool allows me to merge, to unite, or let's say merge. It allows me to minus the front, to intersect, and whatever it is you want to use. So you can use this to manipulate your shapes. So if you're creating a logo and you want to merge certain shapes, this is what you're going to use, a union. If you want to do something like taking out the front from the back, or remove the front, then you're going to have to select this. So in this case, I want it to be union, I want to merge it. So what I'm going to do is select, and I select union or unite. And what he has done, you see, he has now made this shape into one shape. So if you're okay with this, then you can leave it at that. So, and this, I want it to stay on my workspace, so I'm just going to dock it or attach it to the palette or the panel. So I'm okay with this. Remember that we had copied a file, we had copied a shape, rather, this same shape that had not been really manipulated like this. I now want to paste it on top, and what I'm going to do is edit, paste in place. So we have a shortcut here, but I wanted to use this so you can see that we have different shortcuts under the menu bar, or the different menu options in the menu bar. So I want to use paste in place. So it's going to paste exactly where I copied it from, and that is it. Okay, so I like how this looks for now. I want to play around and see if I add a stroke, what it's going to look like. It looks okay. I like this. I like this. So our stroke, this stroke is still on top. This stroke is still on top. I don't like the fact that it's on top. So I need to take it below or bring it on top. But in this case, it seems better to just take it under. That's Control, left square bracket. So for now, I think this looks cool. I think this looks okay. I don't want to change this anymore. Okay, so what I would do is, if I work on the flyer, I'm not still comfortable with the color, I'm going to come still to my color guide and see if I can try other colors to see if it makes any sense. Oh, I like it. I like this one. So if this is not something you want, this is another thing I usually do is, if you have a picture, you can sample colors from the picture. So you see we have beautiful colors from Witty's traditional wear. I can choose to sample a color from Witty's traditional wear. Remember, if you're working for a brand and have specific colors that you're supposed to use, please, I insist, do not go out of the brand guide, because they have chosen that for a specific reason. So in this case, we are going to go out of the norm, and we're going to assume that we don't have a brand guide. We have the freedom to use an accent color from whatever means we want to use, but we already have the main colors, which is the CIMFEST color. So I'm going to select this shape, and I'm going to, let's sample a color from Witty's dress. This orange looks nice. This yellow looks nice too. But my issue with the yellow is it's as loud as, actually, like that pink that we removed. It for learning purpose, I'm going to select the color from Witty's dress. We can select the watch. Oh, the same thing. So I think I'm going to leave it at this. So for now, I think this looks good. We've managed to use exactly what is Oh, I've left out one thing, which is these icons. And let me see if we can add the icons to, if we can add the icons here. Okay, I want to take this up. Sorry, for some reason the text are being a little bit stubborn. So we'll bring this up, and I like the way it is here, and wanted to add the icons. Let's see, I have this tool that allows me to select icons, so I'm just going to use that to drag and drop. Okay, so I want to use this tool to drag and drop. I'm going to select 3 icons, so I'm going to say Facebook, I think I like how this looks. I'll just reduce the font a little bit. It's not a primary information, it's like a supporting information. So we're going to make this white, and we're going to add, we're going to add the link to add CIMFEST. Great. So I've done that, and I like the way it looks. I really do like the way it looks right now. So I like how it looks. I'm going to group this, so if in case I decide sometime in the future to move it to another location, it'll be easy for me to move all of these as a group. So I'm going to click on Ctrl G to group those. I'm going to click on this tool to group, and I'm going to click on performing live and the name to group. So I actually like how this looks now. I'm going to do one more thing. Let's imagine that you're working on the file, and the image, let's say the image is not clear enough and you want to edit the image. One thing I love the use of Illustrator together with Photoshop is how seamless it is. It makes it easy for you to edit or work in between the softwares without actually leaving, or let me say going out to go and drag and drop, then working on the file. Then when you're done with editing the photo, you export it before you import it. If in case you don't like it, you just go back and forth, which is not a good thing. So in this case, if I wanted to edit this photo in Photoshop, the photo looks perfect now, but if I wanted to edit it, I just need to select the image and I click on edit in Photoshop. And what it's going to do is going to open Photoshop for me, allows me to play around with the photo, manipulate the color. I could change the vibrance. I could reduce the saturation. Let's save this and see what it looks like. No. Okay, so what I needed to do was I needed to flatten this. I needed to merge this so that it will save automatically. So what I'm going to do now is to merge this. Let's merge the layers, and boom. So yes, updated, and what I'm going to do is to check Illustrator now. So Illustrator is telling me that some files are missing or modified. So remember I mentioned that if you export a file and it's not embedded, it's going to show this kind of error. So this is the kind of error it's going to show. But in this case, it's trying to tell me that this file has been updated out of Illustrator. Do I want to update the file now in Illustrator? And in this case, I want it to be that. So I'm going to click on yes. Boom. It has updated. This looks really nice and I like it. Okay, so we are done with this. We are done with how it looks right now. And you see that the look is still very similar to the original sketch. A few things may have changed, but the look is still very, very similar. Not much has changed, so I like the way it looks now. I'm going to do one more thing. I don't know if it's necessary, but I just want to play around with this. I'm going to select the curvature tool. It's just going to allow me to draw curves around with it. It's something I just like to do to add a little bit of flair. I'm going to change it. I like how that looks. So when I'm done with this, I just need to, it's just like the pen tool. The difference is that it's going to allow me to create curves. So I like how this looks. I'm going to do the same here, play around with this. So I don't want this to change. So I'm going to click on this point, I actually held on the Alt button on my keyboard and I clicked on the point so that it will not create a curve. I want it to be a little bit straight. And that's that. I like that it looks like that, but I'm going to now change the color to black. Yes, so this is just how I want it to look like. I like the way it looks now. I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to create a stroke, or I'm going to use a pencil to create a line rather. Click on Shift if you want it to create a straight line. If you don't want it to create a straight line, you can just click on anywhere. But if you want it to create a straight line, click on create the first point, then you click on Shift, then you click on your artboard, and you have created a straight line. And I like how this looks. But what we are going to do is, remember, this is not in our color group, so I want to add this. We're just going to create that, but I'm still going to just drag and drop it here. Oh, sorry. I'm going to create this and add this to our color group, which is this, and I'm going to add it there. So yes, added it. So I make sure that I selected the color group first. Make sure that whatever color I wanted to add is selected first. So this selected first. When I came to the color panel, I selected the color group, then I now added it. So I'm done with that and I'm good. I want to change this to this pink, and that is the pink. I like that pink. I'm going to move this up a little bit. Performing live, I don't like that it's light, it's not very visible, so I'm going to change it to that. Let's see. Industrial. Okay, so this is it. We are done with this. So I'm done with everything. I like that it looks like this. So how do I know how it's actually going to look at the end? Let's delete. I don't need this anymore. I'm going to delete this. I'm just going to leave this the way it is. Like I said, I may need to export this and send it to another person. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this color, these guides. So these are guides. We created it from our ruler. I'm going to select them and move them to another layer. Come to the layers panel, and I'm going to create a new layer, which this is how you create a new layer. And I'm just going to see where this blue circle or blue square indicates that something has been selected. I'm just going to click on it without leaving it and drag it to the next layer. So you see the different layers have different color codes. So the layer I just created has like red, and the previous layer or the layer beneath has but blue. So I've moved it there. So you see that the guides have changed to red. I'm comfortable with this now. I just want to hide it. I don't want to remove it. So I can just rename this to guides. I double clicked on the text to change the name, and I'm okay with that. And I'm going to just hide this. So what I usually do if I want to have like a overall preview of what the design could look like is I will create a rectangle. Make sure that this layer is selected. Make sure that this layer is selected, and I'm going to try a rectangle above this. So we're going to do something we call clipping. masking. So I'm going to clip. So when I say clip, I'm going to clip any other thing that is out of this ad, but not this. I'm going to select all the objects that are on this artboard, the text, the shapes I created. I'm going to select all of them, and whatever it is that falls just beneath this particular rectangle is going to be clipped. So it's going to cut out everything that is outside of this rectangle. So this is it. I've selected everything, and you see when you select everything, this is what it shows. It shows you these different lines or these different outlines, and it also shows you on the layers panel that these things or these objects have been selected. And what I'm going to do is to right click, and I'm going to select make clipping mask. Boom, this is what it looks like. So we have created a flyer for CIMFEST, Cameroon International Music Festival 2023, for Witty Minstrel performing live. And we haven't saved our file yet. Remember, we have not saved our Illustrator file. This is not good. What you're supposed to do is the minute you created it, the very first thing you're supposed to do was to save the Illustrator file. So the Illustrator file first, then now you can export it. So we're going to save this Illustrator file first. To save it, we'll need to click on File, and we'll click on Save. I want to save it on my computer. If you're using Creative Cloud, you can save it in the cloud, but I want to save it on my computer. So if you don't want this to always show up, or this one, you don't want this window to always show up, you need to click on Don't Show Again. I want to save on my computer, and it's going to show me where I can save. So in this case, I want to just save it in this same folder. So I've CIMFEST 3 file. So this is Adobe Illustrator. This is the document formats. The original document format, the editable document format for Adobe Illustrator is AI, and that for Photoshop is PSC or .ps. So we're going to save this as .ai. If you want to export as a PDF, you're going to have different options here. So for now, we're going to focus, or EPS is another vector format, but we're going to focus on saving it as the original format, which is AI. I've saved the file, and when it saves, it's going to automatically change Adobe Illustrator. So I'm going to save it as Illustrator 2020. This is very compatible. I don't need to change anything yet. So Illustrator has automatically selected the option that is suitable for this file, and it's still going to be editable even in previous versions. Maybe one or two things may change, but it's still going to be editable in previous versions and the other future versions, which is 2023, and whatever upcoming versions are going to be worked on by the Adobe team. So I'm okay with this. I'm just going to click on OK, and you notice the name changed to CIMFEST 2023 flyer, but the asterisk still shows that it's still saving. So you see it's showing that it's still saving. When the asterisk is no longer visible, it means that the file has totally been saved. And anytime you're working and you notice that the asterisk is there, it's showing that you haven't saved your files. So please save your files. So we are okay with how this looks for now, and we are going to be, let me do a little manipulation, just a little manipulation. The designer in me doesn't want me to just let it go. I just have to change something there. I want to add this a little bit, rather increase the, should I say the width or the height a little bit. Okay, I think this is okay for now. There's one thing I need to change also. I don't want this to be pure white. I want this to have a grayish color. Yes, I like the color like that. I don't want everything to be pure white. So this is fine. I'm okay with the design right now. And I'm going to play around one more thing, which is the stroke. If it doesn't look good, I'm going to delete it. I'm not going to use it anymore. I just want to change. Let me see what an arrow is going to look like here. So I'm just creating an arrow using what I already designed. But I'm going to remove this now. I don't want this arrow anymore here. It's just an idea that came to mind. So it's like directing, oh, who is performing? Witty is performing, and I just like the link between the CIMFEST, Witty performing, and his name at the end. I feel like I want something a little bit artistic again here. It might seem like it's too much, but I just want it to have like a different look. So these are all brush strokes. It just allows you to manipulate your strokes and your brushes. So I just want something different, something a little bit artistic, and yeah, I think this works. I think this works. This works for me. It actually works for me. So this is actually how you manipulate stuff on. You might think that sometimes designers create a specific design and they stick to that design from start to finish. Most of the times, this is what we do to create designs and come up with some designs that look different and exceptional. This is what we do. I like that. I actually like this now. So I'm okay. I'm comfortable with how it looks now, and I would like to export this for Facebook or for WhatsApp. So to export this, I need to come on File, visit File, go to Export. I want to export for screens. So exporting for screens allows you to export in different file formats. If you want PNG, selected. If you want to add JPEG, if the client says he wants different versions, he wants JPEG, he wants PDF, you can just add them, and it helps you to export all of them at once without having to do that multiple times. Before, you have to export first PNG, you go back to the file, you export JPEG, you go back to the file, export. But now you can export in different scales, maybe twice this size. You can export in different file formats. So I want this to be the CIMFEST flyer 2023. I'm okay with this. So am I okay with the location? Yes, I'm okay with the location. So you need to select the location. I want to export to this particular location. I'm okay with it. Open location after export. Yes. So I'm okay with every setting here. Make sure that if you're not okay with the setting, you can change up the settings here. And I'm done. You click on export. For some reason, it's not able to export PNG or PNG. So we're going to just leave it at that. I think my computer has an issue. This is not the first time I'm facing this. I don't think it has anything to do with Illustrator, but I think it has something to do with my Illustrator. Maybe my scratch disk is full or something. But we are done. We have exported the file. So let's check out. Let's look for the file. So this is the original file we created, which is Adobe Illustrator, and now we have the CIMFEST file. We have the PDF flyer, and we have the JPEG. So let's open the JPEG. And that is our flyer. So we can share this flyer on Facebook, we can share this flyer on Twitter, we can share this flyer on our WhatsApp status. And this is generally the creative process for designing a flyer, at least for me. For other designers, like I earlier mentioned, you could have a different process, but this is how it is for me. And I hope that you've been able to learn something. Please feel free to make use of this process for your other design project. It could be brochure design. User experience design may have a different process. Banner designs, any other design you plan on working on, t-shirts design. I always advise that you start first with sketching, and when you're done with sketching, then you can go now to your tool and do whatever, manipulate whatever it is you want to manipulate. And you notice that I did not start with I started with the original design, but later on I changed it up. So that is what normally happens. So this design may not be looking perfect. Normally I will have to do a lot of 1 or 2 touch-ups to make sure that things are properly aligned and the images are well edited and so on and so forth. But in this case, we are using this for a beginner tutorial. So I'm hoping that this is actually a good example for a beginner. It's not so much for a beginner. I hope that you are able to learn something. And if you have any question or you have anything to add to what I've demonstrated, then please do. And you don't have to use these files. There are so many files on the internet, free images. All you can do is just to find an image that could be suitable for your project and work along with me and practice, practice, and practice. And with time, you'll get used to it. So I'm using this as a way to encourage you. Illustrator is not difficult. It just takes a little bit of time for you to work up to using the tool. But when you do, it's superb. You can do whatever it is you want to do. You can create flyers, just like you can use Photoshop to create flyers. You can do the same with Illustrator. So thank you very much.